What could possibly connect the story of a 17th century sailor from Watchet and Barbary pirates all the way from North Africa? Well, the story lies in one of the most forgotten periods of British history. I'm going to tell you the story of George Escott and the Barbary pirates. For generations, sailors left this harbour expecting to return home just a few days later. Fishermen headed out before dawn, merchants crossed the Bristol Channel carrying valuable cargo, and families waited for their safe return. But during the early 17th century, something began to change. Not every ship came back. Some voyages ended in silence. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. Families were left wondering what had become of the fathers, husbands, and sons who had simply vanished. Many believed they had been claimed by storms. Others assumed they had drowned at sea, but the truth was far more shocking. To understand George Escott's story, first we need to understand the world that he lived in. 400 years ago, Watchet was a busy port, bringing people and supplies from all around the world. But the seas that brought prosperity to Watchet also brought something far more dangerous. For those left behind, there were rarely any answers. No letters, no survivors returning home, just unanswered questions. Families searched for explanations. Some believed their loved ones had been claimed by storms. Others assumed their ships had simply vanished beneath the waves. It was, perhaps, the only explanation that made sense. But many of those missing sailors hadn't drowned at all. For most people, when they think of pirates, they probably imagine the Caribbean. But for many people in Somerset, Cornwall and Devon during the 17th century, the greatest threat actually came from North Africa. And for these pirates, the greatest prize wasn't gold, it was people. The Barbary pirates weren't simply attacking ships for treasure. Every captured sailor represented profit. Men, women and children were transported across the Mediterranean and sold into slavery. By the middle of the 17th century, it is estimated that around 20,000 English captives were being held in North Africa. This was not a distant conflict taking place on the other side of the world. It was happening to ordinary people from coastal communities just like Watchet. Thousands of men, women and children were captured from Britain's coastline during this period. Many never returned home. One of those men was a Watchet sailor named George Escott. In 1608, George Escott set out to earn his living at sea, just as countless West Country sailors had done before him. He had no reason to believe that this voyage would be any different from the many that had come before. But somewhere out in the Bristol Channel, everything changed. His vessel was attacked by a notorious pirate gang, and George was taken prisoner. He was brought to Lundy Island, where Thomas Salkeld had established a pirate stronghold overlooking the Bristol Channel. For many prisoners, Lundy wasn't the end of their journey. It was simply where they waited before being transported to the slave markets in North Africa. George understood exactly what awaited him. If he boarded another ship, there was every chance he would never see England again. Like so many others before him, he faced the prospect of spending the rest of his life in slavery. There was only one opportunity to escape, and it meant taking on armed pirates with also no chance of success. But George wasn't prepared to accept that fate. Together with several other prisoners, George launched a desperate revolt against the pirates. Armed with nothing more than a shovel, he attacked Thomas Salkeld, breaking his arm, making his escape from Lundy. Against all odds, George made it back to Watchet. And George's courage did not go unnoticed. King James I later recognised his bravery by awarding him with a royal pension of 18 pence a day. Few men who fell into the hands of the Barbary pirates were ever so fortunate. George Escott was one of the fortunate few. Many others never returned. Across the coastlines of Somerset, Devon and Cornwall, countless families were torn apart by Barbary pirates. Men, women and children were taken, and many never returned. Many of their stories have disappeared from our history altogether. History hasn't forgotten George Escott. We've simply stopped telling his story. Perhaps it's time that changed.